Right. I'll just go back into screen share. Yeah, so this is Richard Anderson, who wrote the book Cleanse and Purify Thyself, which I showed you earlier. And he cured himself after being diagnosed. By the way, does anybody know, can you see these Telegram messages popping up? Because they really annoy me and I can't find a way to stop them. Or did you not see those? I hope not.
See them, don't worry.
Good. So he cured himself with using these techniques. He went on a walkabout with a friend of his and he took lots of different herbs which alkalized his body and which helped him to remove the mucoid plaque from his system. So when we get very toxic, one of the symptoms that we get is a lot of mucus, and that can take the form of snot coming out of the nose, but it can also be a kind of mucoid plaque, we call it, which appears in the intestine, and it lines the intestine to stop us from, I'll just show you, pop down a couple of slides. This is mucoid plaque. So you can see it makes the stool look like a line of sausages. So it looks like that because the mucus is on the outside and it creates a pocket and the stool is on the inside. So this, we've been talking about bowel cleansing. This particular cleanse, it's a week-long cleanse and it will really help to rid your body of mucoid plaque. So I want to talk about the healing crisis. This is what Jose was speaking about. It's what Judith was speaking about. The lady from Gateshead, Priscilla. It's your body throwing off symptoms as it heals. And by the way, I can send you this PowerPoint presentation, so you don't need to take notes. And medical practitioners don't recognize the healing crisis. In fact, what they are very often doing is suppressing it. So you're given antibiotics if you get earache or many different symptoms. So I like to keep the idea of healing very, very simple. So in the healing crisis, the acute is the cure of the chronic. So your body will throw out various symptoms if you change your diet. If you add, as Jose and I think somebody else said, if you start to have green juice, if you introduce that into your diet, your body goes, yippee, I can now throw off all these substances that I've been hanging on to for a long time. But you need to keep the flow going. So one of the main principle in homeopathy is flow. You know, it's like water. If it can't flow, then if it's dammed, it's going to do this stop-start M25 situation. So you're going to get withdrawal symptoms when you stop tobacco, if you stop tea, if you stop coffee. This is what's going to happen. So healing crisis is a really important thing to understand, and it's actually very, very good, but you just want to be able to manage it. So some of this is my thoughts on what's going on at the moment with regards to the symptoms that we're seeing from different from COVID, etc. So the cytokine storm is a healing crisis to me. It can be dressed up in these complicated terms, but inflammation and the activation of the body's immune response and the response of the organs, which can lead to organ failure and death, is just a big healing crisis. Also, we're going to have Linda, hopefully, coming on to talk next week. She has just been diagnosed with something called mast cell activation syndrome. And that doesn't mean a syndrome, by the way, which has been activated by a 5G mast. Although, ironically, the cells are called mast cells, and this is exactly the kind of symptoms that you might get from toxicity generated by radio frequency radiation. So it causes a person to have repeated severe allergy symptoms, symptoms on the skin, the gastrointestinal tract, the heart, the respiratory system, and neurological systems. So you can see how these symptoms could be caused by what might be called COVID at the moment, but they could also be as a result of radio frequency radiation poisoning, and they could come from chemical poisoning, from food substances which are not good for us. So we live in a very, very toxic world, and our bodies are absolutely extraordinary. They are so resilient that they just keep us going. In fact, if our bodies were a lot less tolerant, or if we noticed much more when what we put into our bodies gave us a certain reaction, or when we walk by a certain mask that we have a certain symptom, we would be able to look after ourselves much better. So what detoxification does is it helps us to listen to our bodies better. It helps us to say, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go to Starbucks and have that muffin and that coffee today. I think I'm going to go for a green juice and I'm going to have some herbs. So these are some of the herbs. Jose was saying he didn't have time to go into the herbs, and we are not going to have a lot of time to go into the herbs either. But you can get an idea of what might be good for you. And a lot of them you will have actually heard of already. So peppermint, people know what that is. Sheep sorrel, that grows, this is down here. You can buy sorrel actually in health food shops and in the supermarkets. And we're very lucky in North Devon because it grows abundantly, so abundantly, in fact, on the hills that the sheep can't manage to eat it all. So we go around collecting it and putting it in our salads. And it's great when you freshly pick it. Ginger root, fennel seed, myrrh gum, as in the three wise men, golden seal. Now, most of these herbs have many different properties. And again, I'm not going to be able to go through them all, but we'll just have a sort of quick whiz through. And like I say, I can send you this PowerPoint and then you can look at it at your leisure. But marshmallow, what has come to be a nasty, sugary, puffy thing that we that we roast on the barbecue, actually started off. It is a beautiful plant, which is it's a demulcent, and it's very soothing for the digestive tract. Alfalfa, which people might have heard of, it's of the clover family. It helps to cleanse the blood. Chickweed, which is an amazing little plant. If you have pot plants inside in England, chickweed loves to come and live in the pot plants if you've brought in any soil from outside. And all these plants are our friends. That's our berries from our hawthorn tree in our garden. and you can make a lot of your own herbal tinctures, and you can get fresh cleavers herb. You'll find that coming up now. So if you're making a juice at home, you can put, you don't want to use too much of this. It's not like mint, which you put in salads. You just use a little bit, but you could put it in if you're making a green juice from, let's say, celery and courgettes and cucumbers, and it helps to detoxify the lymphatic system. You've got licorice root, which is very sweet and very soothing as well. Great also for the endocrine system. And this one is a good one if you've got a very sweet tooth, because one of the things about detoxing is finding something else that you can have, which is, can everyone check that they're on mute? Because there was a strange noise there. It's good to have alternatives. So you can have licorice tea, which can help with cravings for refined sugars. And it's also very good for blood sugar levels. Natural rose hips from a form of vitamin C, yellow dock, shave grass. I'm just going to whisk over these ones. Slippery elm, which is fantastic if you've got lots of crampy bowels, which can happen if you do detox. Again, it's a very soothing herb. It comes as a powder, and you can use it with charcoal or with a little bit of bentonite clay, and it just helps to soothe the process of the body releasing the mucoid plaque. Kelp. We talked a little bit about kelp, and I completely agree with Priscilla that you want to make sure that you have a good source. But of course, as we know, what's happening now, the planet is so polluted that we're finding it more and more difficult to get good sources. So hopefully, as we detox ourselves, we will also be able to detox the planet. Psyllium is the most amazing herb. It's a ubiquitous herb throughout the world. This is some North Devon psyllium, Plantago it's called. And you can use this to draw out toxins and also to bulk up in the intestines. It comes in this powdered form or like husks. So you can either have the powdered one or the one which is a bit more husky, which is this one here. And I very often take this. I maybe do a cleanse day once a week just to keep myself, keep my system working well. And you can have this first thing in the morning, and it always makes people laugh because it goes like wallpaper paste. I don't know if anybody's tried it here. It bulks up, and you want to drink it before it goes like wallpaper paste. And it can be combined very well with bentonite clay, and it has the effect of regulating your bowels. So if you're constipated, you have thin amounts of psyllium, and it can help to move things along. If you've got runny diarrhea, you can have a bit more psyllium, maybe 2 teaspoonfuls in a glass of water, followed by a herbal tea. You want to keep your water intake up. Otherwise, you'll get a sort of ball of wallpaper paste stuck in the intestine somewhere. And then you can mix it with the bentonite clay. I'm going to credit our teacher, Peter, here. So I'm actually qualified as a homeopath, but I have done a lot of I've done like an apprenticeship with Peter in naturopathic detox and other types of naturopathy. So he came here and taught us how to run these cleanse weeks, and he's a nutritionist and he has a PhD in high energy physics. He does body electronics. So he still runs these cleanse weeks. So if anybody's interested to go and visit him, he lives in an amazing place in Rhegog in Wales, and he's surrounded by rocks. So he's in a very good place for people who are electrosensitive to recover themselves. With the bentonite clay, it needs to be hydrated, i.e. you would put, if you get a jam jar, you put a quarter of the jam jar with this powdered clay, fill it up with water, filter water, it's got to be good quality water, and shake it a little bit and leave it overnight. And then you want to mix it up with wood or plastic, because it has an electric charge, which is changed if you use a metal spoon. So this is Peter with the bottle of bentonite clay with the wooden spoon. And you can see from what is written here that it absorbs 50 to 100 times its weight in toxins, which is huge. So you can use this mixed with something like zeolite, which is great for detoxing from heavy metals, which would also help with electromagnetic sensitivity. And it's it's a bit like drinking mud, and you do get little blobby bits in it, but persevere, because to cleanse the bowels and to keep them regular, and if you have any kind of food poisoning, this is a marvelous thing to take. You can also use it to draw out toxins. Let's say you've got a nasty splinter. It has many uses. It's a fabulous thing, and it's basically clay, it's mud. So I love to keep things simple. And you know, the doctors, what has tended to happen is doctors have incredibly complicated names for different things. And really, in homeopathy, we just say, and naturopathy, we say, we talk about toxicity, deficiency, and stress. And most things can be sort of categorized and looked at in that way. And we look for flow. Anywhere where there isn't flow, that's where we're going to be, you know, looking at that person and saying, you know, what's going on here? And part of the flow is obviously water. I mean, this is essential. I mean, we're incredibly lucky. We actually have a well in our house, which we just discovered last year. So we have our own freshly drawn well water. But, you know, obviously other people, good water is important. And I can't go into that because it's a big subject on its own. The Andreas Moritz liver cleanse people have been talking about, which I highly recommend. This cleanse, the week-long cleanse, we use a modified version of that in the morning, and this is the recipe of it. And this is such a good, you can modify it if you don't like garlic, or you can't take chili. Because I practice homeopathy, in homeopathy, we individualize with everyone. And, you know, people come here and they say, oh, I can't take chili and, you know, garlic. I'm not going to take that. I'm going to stink, whatever. You can individualize this. You can make it up. You don't have to take too much. You know, if you've already had your gallbladder removed, or you can just take small quantities and check your system and make sure that your the flow is going, and that you're not putting yourself into too much of a healing crisis. Again, I'm very lucky with my homeopathy, because in fact, I don't think I'd run a cleanse if I didn't know about homeopathy. And my teacher, Peter, also used to live with a homeopath, so he uses homeopathy a lot. We have a remedy which is called Nux vomica, which helps with exactly what it sounds like, when you get that feeling that you're going to puke up, which does happen quite a lot. If you're doing a week-long cleanse, you just have a little dose of Nux vomica, and what will very often happen is you will puke up, because you're stimulating the body to do what it actually needs to do. So it's very, very helpful to have homeopathic remedies alongside everything else. Juices, Jose and Judith mentioned the juicing. This week-long cleanse, we do green juice, and we have our Green Star juicer here, which is a very good one. You can use a cheaper juicer, you know, the centrifugal ones. This juicer, by the way, it hasn't got the front bit on, it's halfway through being cleaned. And the green juices are very important because they keep your blood sugar level stable. We don't use carrot. Sometimes people, we don't tend to use the cabbage family, the crucifers, because people who have thyroid imbalances, that can cause problems. But most people can take courgettes, cucumber, and celery, the 3 C's, and we can add leaf greens in, or you can add, as I said earlier, you could add some sheep sorrel in, or you can add wheatgrass, which is the most amazing cleanser on its own. Oh, I got this. So this is our homegrown wheatgrass. Cut and come again. Usually get like it grows up, you cut it back, and then it will grow up again. And that's very easy and simple to grow, and it's a terrific cleanse agent on its own. If you just did wheatgrass, you would get some incredible results. What I do nowadays is I haven't had much time to grow wheatgrass, but in our polytunnel we grow fantastic greens, Mizuna and Rocket, and we grow so much of them that I can just eat handfuls for lunch. So that's my sort of, it's very high vibrational green intake. If you can grow your own greens on your windowsill, this is so simple, but I would never underestimate how wonderful that food is, and especially when you've tended it yourself. Or somebody like Shirley, who we live with, has tended it for us. Food enzymes, very important. Take the burden off the digestion, because I suffered from very, very chronic IBS through taking all the antibiotics and stress when I was younger, and my health had completely broken down by the time I was 30. I thought I was dying, and the doctors, it's a similar story, generally similar story. The doctors didn't have anything that they could do for me. I think they said I could have a barium enema and all sorts of other things. And I said, no, thank you. So I found myself a nutritionist and a homeopath, and my journey started from there. And like Jose, I was eating meat at that point. I started on an exclusion diet, which included 2 ingredients for a full week: lamb and pears. It was a very strange combination, but it got me started, because so many people are sensitive to wheat, sensitive to gluten, and like Jose, I was so intolerant to so many things that life became an absolute nightmare. You know, I'd go down to my parents and my brothers and sisters and the rest of my step family were all tucking into, you know, my stepmother's delicious coffee walnut cake with refined sugar icing caked on top of it. I couldn't eat any of those things at all. I had to sort of take my brown rice with sunflower seeds with me. So this is quite a journey, and but I'm so pleased that I've done it, because my health now, age 60, is so much better than it was when I was 30. And what was also fascinating to me was that my health just got better and better, because every time I ran a detox week, I would always do a lot of it, you know, the green juice and with the people who were there. And every time I did it for a week, I just felt better. So I'm like, wow, I didn't know I could feel this good. You know, I feel like I did when I was a child again. This is terrific. I've forgotten completely what it was like to feel good. And a lot of the time I was depressed, and yeah, I just struggled hugely. The minerals, this is a fantastic supplement. You can actually, in this particular one, it's capsules, but actually we don't tend to use the capsules because they're very expensive. It's made by a company called Enzymes International, which was started up because of the work of somebody called John Whitman Ray, who was a naturopath and who was the founder of Body Electronics. He was an extraordinarily knowledgeable practitioner, and he realized that most people were chronically deficient in minerals, and that the electronics, you could say, the electrics of their bodies did not work until they had a full complement of minerals. And when I read to you some of the ingredients of this, you will think that this is a load of this is the worst thing you could possibly take. And doctors have been in this house and they've looked at this, and I've given them some to drink, and they said no, this is poisonous. But I'm telling you that this is not poisonous. We've even had people who were coming on our detox week who said, I trust you, Katherine, but I've just read the ingredients of this mineral bottle, and I'm not sure that I really want to be taking aluminium, antimony, arsenic, barium, beryllium, bismuth, boron, and bromine. And I said, look, don't worry, I've been taking this for years and I only feel better. But this is it's a trace mineral supplement, and it's organic, natural, plant derived colloidal trace minerals. Now, what that means, it's like fossilized plant juice, so the body recognizes it as food. It's not like finding a lump of arsenic and giving it a little chew. So it's, again, these things, you know, we find it with 5G, we find it with the ingredients, how can I say, that these naturopathic cleanses are absolutely fantastic. The information is fantastic, but what you will find on the internet is a lot of disinformation about it. They will say, you are going to do yourself serious harm if you have these colloidal minerals. This is a poison. No, no, no. We have to like go back into ourselves and say, where's this information coming from? Who is writing these books? Do we trust these people? And I'm saying yes. I give them a big yes. You know, people like tissue cleansing through bowel management, you know, naturopathic doctors who have treated and worked with thousands of patients, people who work with people and they put people, you know, thousands of people through fasting, which I also advocate. These are really, really powerful ways to heal yourself. So bit of a digression there, but the minerals are essential. In fact, Linus Pauling, who won a Nobel Prize for his research work on vitamin C, he said that vitamins without minerals are useless, because your body can't absorb the minerals, can't absorb the vitamins without the minerals. And when I first started taking the minerals, I'm going to spend a little time on this because I feel it's important, because we are electrical beings. And if we, ironically, if we don't have a full complement of all the minerals, we cannot charge ourselves up. We cannot power up. We don't feel sparky. You know, we use all these electrical phrases when we talk about energy. You know, we talk about being energized. We feel a lot more energized if we've got a full complement of minerals, and everything will run better for us. I know we haven't got, I've already gone way over time. I'm usually the timekeeper and I'm noticing I've gone way over time, but we won't talk about grander, but that's well structured water. It's like perfectly patterned water, which we also use. This is a probiotic. It's a live bacteria rather than a capsule, which might be a more dormant bacteria. Brilliant for the microbiome. It tastes a bit like badly brewed homemade beer. We used to serve it in cocktail glasses, drinkies before raw meals. Raw meals, you know, good raw food. Deep breathing, yoga, hot and cold showers. You can look at all of this when you get the PowerPoint to look at it a little bit more detail. Coffee enemas. You have to keep the flow going in the bowel if you're doing a week-long cleanse like this. And the coffee enemas, as Jose said, you know, the liver cleanses the blood, and the coffee has a very specific effect on the liver, and it travels through the portal vein to get to the liver and allows the liver to dump the toxins. So it's a special coffee. Gerson coffee is good. You can get it from coffee plant in London by mail order, but you can also use any good organic coffee. And I have a little video actually on YouTube of some of these things, how to do a coffee enema. So I'm not going to stop here and talk about that because we need to finish. And if you do all the elements of this cleanse, you're likely to bring out mucoid plaque, and your system will feel a lot cleaner and a lot clearer. That's also another good thing, the far infrared. So just to recap, this is the last slide. The nutrients come in, raw food, psyllium, bentonite. You're reducing the strain on your digestive system because you're not going to be eating cooked food. You're not having tea, coffee, refined sugars, bread, etc. Your circulation is stimulated because you're going to be doing yoga and exercise and chili and ginger. The nutrients reach the cells, you know, whether that's the green juice, and the toxins are removed from the cells into the blood and the lymph. The blood and the lymph systems are stimulated. The liver and the skin and the mucous membranes as well. The blood is cleansed. You can use body brushing. I can hear somebody's got something on in the background. Sounds like a TV or something. The absorbers in the gut help to hold the increased waste, and then hopefully you poop. So I'm going to finish off there because I've definitely gone over time. I started a bit over time as well. And just as we were saying, it's important to start off slowly. Judith mentioned this. It's important to come down slowly. I mean, what I've just been talking about there is a week-long cleanse. And you might say, well, how come that's relevant to EMF sensitivity? As Jose has showed us, just having your body in better shape means that you're going to be more resilient. You're going to be able to notice effects more, and you're going to be able to take more preventive measures. I don't think we've got a lot of time for questions. So maybe if people want to email me questions, would that be a good idea?
Or what we could also do, if you want to, Catherine, we could have a Q&A with you next week. Because then we send out the video, people can go through it again and then ask some questions next week.
That sounds like a good idea, because I think Velma wants to say a little bit next week. She can share some of her story. And if Linda can come on as well from Bedfordshire area, she's got some really interesting things to share, because she's been working with as many doctors as she can, trying to get them to recognize the effects of electromagnetic stress and the link to Epstein-Barr and Lyme's, and looking at cytokine storms, mast cell activation. So her mission is to get the medical profession to acknowledge that all of these things have a link. Okay, so over to Karen and Neil. I don't know who wants to go first.
Nevertheless, if you want to put your email on the chat, so like maybe we can ask you questions through email and then you can answer everything on the Q&A next week.
Sure, that's a good idea. That is a very good idea.
Meanwhile, we have questions now that we may forget during the week and we may not have enough time to prepare before,
sure. Yeah, that's a very good point. And in fact, if you want to put any questions in now, you can. Okay, that's my email address.
Oh, good idea. So we're going over to Neil and Karen now. And Karen and Neil, you've sent me the email with a bit of a summary of what you're going to update us on. And I thought, wow, that's so much. So don't pressure yourselves to cover it all tonight. If it's too much for one Zoom call, we could